The bittersweet ending of Season 2 left us with a bunch of cliffhangers, which is essentially their MO, Remember Game of Thrones? They always do the same thing. It's sad that we have to wait till 2026 for the next season. That will again leave us with cliffhangers. Life. Anyway, as a consolation prize, they showcase one of the wild dragons from the books, although there has been a few changes to its story as a whole, some of which fans might not really like, but nevertheless we will still dive into this dragon called Sheepstealer, analyzing his story, his size, how and why his appearance is different from the other Targaryen dragons, and what changed from the books and in the series. So let's get to it. Let's begin with diving into what Sheepstealer is in the books, then go on to the series. In Fire and Blood, Sheepstealer was a lean mud-brown dragon with a notable preference for mutton. Generally non-aggressive towards humans unless provoked, Sheepstealer still had a reputation for being vicious and ill-tempered sometimes. Although Sheepstealer was known to have been in the Vale of Arryn at one point of time, he didn't really seek refuge there during the period when Rhaena was a ward of Jeyne Arryn, as his primary residence was always Dragonstone. During the event known as the Red Sowing, a guy named Silver Dennis attempted to claim Sheepstealer inside the dragonmont, but the dragon violently resisted, tearing off Dennis' arm, and then afterwards he was devoured by a larger dragon called the Cannibal. Grand Maester Munkun described Sheepstealer and his rider Nettles as a skinny brown girl on a skinny brown dragon, although it is important to note that Munkun never actually saw Nettles or the dragon himself. Now in the series, Rhaena Targaryen found out ashy remains of dead sheep and goats in the Vale, and what is notably ash that is made from dragonfire. She was later told by Jeyne Arryn that there was indeed a dragon there that was large and formidable. Since Rhaena had been denied by the dragons of Dragonstone to be their rider, she was desperate to find and finally bond with one. She also wanted to secure the aid of the Vale with their 15,000 strong soldiers in order to bolster Rhaenyra's cause. After traveling for quite a while alone, never mind leaving the little kids alone, she finally tracks down the Sheepstealer dragon after seeing him fly beside the mountains of the Vale. She meets him, and the encounter was left with a cliffhanger for the next season. But it is safe to say that she will tame the dragon and ride the beast, therefore cutting off the character of Nettles from the show. So this is probably why you're here in this video, to know the size of Sheepstealer and his age. Well, in the books, he was described as a skinny mud-brown dragon by Munkun, but as we said before, Munkun never really saw the dragon, so he didn't know shit. In the show, we get a perfect scene to assess his size, right when Rhaena met the dragon and had a stare down with him. The scene then panned out to both of them to be included in the same shot. Here we can take our trusted scale and place it next to Rhaena Targaryen, who is portrayed by actress Phoebe Campbell, whose height is 5 feet 7 inches, or in the entire world's terms, 170 centimeters. Then with the same scale, place it next to Sheepstealer and extrapolate. We get a dragon that is 27 meters roughly, approximately 90 feet in length. This makes the wild dragon a mature specimen around the same size as Syrax, and way smaller than Caraxes or the other larger dragons introduced in the last episode. He was said in the books to have been born when the old king was still a young boy, and thus this makes him around 80 to 90 years of age, and would have lived beyond the dance to probably reach a ripe old age of 100 or so. And we will tell you all about his final fate in a little while. Now let's take a look at his body design first, and his very different appearance compared to the other dragons. So like the Targaryen dragons, this wild one also follows the same basic wyvern layout, with a serpentine body shape, spikes on the back, with 2 forelimbs that are adapted into massive wings, 2 legs, a long tail, a long neck, and a reptilian face, or you can say snout. His coloration, however, is dark grey with patches of mud brown and dull yellow markings, instead of the book telling that he is entirely mud brown. His scales and spikes on the back give out a crocodilian element, and his snout is long but broad like an alligator, with small horns and osteoderms on his head. So while the other dragons do look like a pedigree breed, let's say, this one seems to give out a mongrel essence. So why does this wild dragon look different from the others? There are a couple of reasons, one of which is that he might be descended from non-Targaryen dragons that have been in Dragonstone since or before the arrival of Aenys the Dreamer, before the doom of Valyria. They might also be dragons that escape the doom and settle in Dragonstone later on. He might be a descendant of the cannibal or another dragon that died out and was one of the little dragons that escaped the hunger of the dreaded one and managed to grow into adulthood. Another reason is that he simply is like Caraxes and was a one-of-a-kind, a deformed dragon a little bit, and does look different to the others. But this is mere speculation from our part, so take this with a little bit of grain of salt. So we have established that Sheepstealer is a medium-sized dragon and he looks way different from the other Targaryen dragons, and that in the books he was always in Dragonstone for most of the time. He was also mentioned by Daemon indirectly in the last episode of the first season to be one of the three wild dragons roosting within the dragonmont. So why is he in the Vale and instead of being in Dragonstone? So in Fire and Blood, it was mentioned that Sheepstealer does venture out into the Vale at some point of time, maybe in order to find mutton for dinner. The Vale is the nearest kingdom, the nearest of the 7 kingdoms to Dragonstone, when the Crown Lands are not considered here. It is also way closer to Dragonstone than King's Landing is. So it might be that due to the many dragons that have made their home in Dragonstone recently, some of which are way larger and more powerful, his hunting territory would have been diminished as well as his food source. So venturing out in search of greener pastures, isn't that really strange? Wild animals do it all the time, especially when there are larger alpha creatures that have chased them out. So here in the Vale, as of the series, he would be claimed by Rhaena, and she would finally have a dragon of her own, something that she had been yearning for. With that, she would maybe take on the role of Nettles and take part in some critical battles that happens in the Dance of the Dragons. Spoiler alert here, but then again the series might not follow the same story as the book, so... Anyway, one of the critical engagements that Sheepstealer will take part in is the Battle of the Gullet, and in the rapid capture of King's Landing. But again, this is in the books. In the latest episode, Rhaena and the other dragon riders are readying themselves for taking the capital city, while Rhaena has still yet to tame the wild beasts. Therefore, the storyline has now changed drastically, and she might still make a scene for the Battle of the Gullet, but this is also yet to be established. So now going back to the books, what is the ultimate fate of the dragon Sheepstealer? When Queen Rhaena declared Nettles a traitor, when she was suspecting her to be riding another dragon instead of Sheepstealer, Nettles fled Maidenpool early in the morning, feeding Sheepstealer the largest black ram before departing. She would fly over the Bay of Crabs that separates the Crown Lands from the Vale, and after Rhaenyra's death, reports emerged of Sheepstealer and her being sighted at Cracklaw Point and at the Mountains of the Moon. These are areas in the Vale. In the year 134 AC, during King Aegon III's reign, King Aegon the Younger, Sir Robert Rowan led a royal army to the Vale of Arryn to support Sir Joffrey Arryn. They encountered Sheepstealer and Nettles in a cave, resulting in a fight where 16 men were killed and 60 were wounded. Nettles and her dragon were seen then flying deeper into the Mountains of the Moon, into the mountain range. So later, an offshoot clan of the Painted Dogs in the Vale came to worship a fire witch, sending their boys with gifts to her, facing her dragon's flames to prove their manhood. So we can say that she is Nettles and the dragon here is Sheepstealer. Now if you like this one, then watch this one too, and do check out our channel for other dragon and monster content. We might have things you haven't seen before. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.